In today's video, I'm going to be addressing some concerns that Fuji users and potential buyers are having regarding overheating issues with long-run capture on the Fuji X-T3. This is going to address 1080p and 4K capture. Stay tuned for numbers. Hey everyone, Tanya here from The Creative Nest. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am dressed like a witch, evidently. So just like a tiny side story, I actually got up and got dressed and went to work this way today. And it was actually a client that pointed out that she was really enjoying my witchy vibe. See, what's funny about that is that wasn't really like the game plan, but you know what? Sure, that's exactly what I was going for. You totally got me. But in all seriousness, in today's video, we're going to talk about a pretty serious concern that viewers and potential buyers are having regarding the overheating issue with mirrorless cameras, specifically in this video, the Fuji X-T3. Now, lucky for you, you don't have to go and test it all by yourself because I have answers for you, right down to the resolution, the frame rate, and how long you can probably safely go running it. But before I give you that very crucial information, I'm just gonna ask that you please go ahead and like this video. If you get anything out of it, please subscribe to my channel and go ahead and comment because this video was actually prompted through a user comment. Shout out to Aureli VS, Aureli. Whatever, that's how you spell it. So let's get started with 1080p. So about 2 months after I bought my Fuji X-T3, I had a contract that involved shooting a long run performance. It was about 3 hours in length total between the two parts and the intermission in the middle. The intermission was only 10 minutes. So I popped it up on a tripod, crossed my fingers, hope for the best, set it to 1080p at 24 frames per second and hit record. And I was very surprised to see that it actually captured the whole thing. It didn't give me any warnings. I only did one battery swap, so like shout out to knockoff batteries. This is actually the battery that I used. I got it off of Amazon. I've got like 10 of these. I just bought a whole bunch because the Fuji brand ones are really pricey. They're great, but they're super pricey. So I'll include a link below the video. But it was like kind of concerning warm. That's where I leave you with the number. So let's assume that I was able to get 3 hours, no issues. I would say that you could safely shoot 2. Straight capture, no stopping, minus battery change. That last hour might be on borrowed time because the camera was exceptionally hot. So let's say you can get 3, but I would advise at the 2 to 2.5 hour mark, you start to become concerned. 1080p at 30 frames per second. Now, I wish I could tell you something about this frame rate, but I think it's garbage and I don't use it. So we're gonna pretend it never existed and just move on to 60. So 1080p at 60 frames per second. This is where I shoot all of my B-roll. Anything that is not an interview or like a recital or a conference, this is where I'm at. Even wedding ceremonies, I'll shoot in 1080. Blah, 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 blah. Do I know my job? Do I even know what I'm talking about? Let's take a step back. Because at 60 frames per second, I know that I can slow it down and get that like beautiful slow-mo cinematic feel and then just export it at 24 frames per second. So I actually have a lot of experience in 1080p at 60 frames and I can confidently say that you're gonna get about an hour and a half. And anything beyond that, similar to 1080p 24, at about 3 hours, it starts getting really warm. Like the kind of warm that you're concerned you should probably shut your camera off. You're gonna have to expect a battery change, maybe 2, depending on the kind of batteries you're using in between. But I mean, you pop one out, put one in, and it's good to go. I didn't receive any heat warnings, and I have shot several long ceremonies at 1080p 60. I would say the safe zone really is up to the hour and a half mark. Anything beyond that, camera starts getting hot, you're probably on borrowed time, but I mean, go for it. If it's not something that's crucial and detrimental that you can't get back if you pick it up. All right, moving on to 4K. Actually, I don't have numbers for you on 4K 24 frame. However, I do have 4K at 60 frame because in response to Aureli's comment, I actually decided to just test it the same day that I read the comment. Put a monitor so I could like flip it around and monitor that it was still rolling. And I just let it run and I did my work. My goal was to shoot at 1 hour and then update, 2 hour, then update, and then 3. I gave it way more credit than it was due. At 4K 60 frames per second, it overheated. It straight up gave me a warning. It started to flash red. At around 35 minutes, I turned it off before it went ahead and did it for me. So I don't know at what point it would have shut down, but I'm confident that the 30-minute mark is where I would max myself out. I would never put myself in a position where I need to capture something at 4K 60 frame for longer than 30 minutes. So this may be disappointing for some people to hear. It may make you feel like you don't want to buy the camera, but I would just like to point out the primary utility for cameras like this, like for cameras like the Fuji X-T3, even like the Canon 80D, which I'm actually using to shoot this. These cameras are not built for something like a 3 hour straight, 4 hour straight long run capture. They need time to cool down and take breaks in between. They're just simply not built for it. Excessive heat and electronics that are not coded for it, you're looking at long-term damage and you're reducing the lifespan of your camera. If you're the kind of person that is shooting something very long run on a regular basis, let's say you do a lot of conferences or AGMs, and you do need to run your camera for 3 hours at a time, I recommend getting something that is built to do that, or preparing to have more than one camera body on rotation for the purpose of that. If it doesn't need to be in 4K, I actually still have my Sony XFS100. It's heavy. I'm just kidding, it literally weighs like 3 pounds. Maybe 5, let's say 7. I have no clue what it weighs, but it weighs significantly more than my X-T3. So this used to be what I shot on a heavy majority of the time. For anyone who does follow the FS series, I mean, we are years and years and models away from the FS100, but at the time it was a really phenomenal camera. And the fact of the matter is it's still awesome. So this is the kind of camera that I can confidently rely on doing long run capture. And so I actually picked it up secondhand on Kijiji from some Russian guy. Well, I'm kind of convinced it fell off the back of a bus or back of a truck because he had no receipts or proof of purchase, and I bought it. So the reason I've held on to this camera, even though I have upgraded to things that arguably produce a way better image quality, is for the long run capture. I still do have a couple times a month, really, I get capture that involves just setting it up on a tripod, hitting record and stepping back and pretty much hanging out for 3 hours. In the event that I did need 4K 60 frame per second or even 4K 24 frame per second, really long run capture, I would probably rent a camera that can do that comfortably, because I know for a fact that my mirrorless is not built to do it. So before I go ahead and wrap this video, let's just like pull up those stats again. So at 1080p, 24 frames per second, I would say you can sit around the 3 hour mark. At 60 frames per second, I'd say about an hour and a half. At 4K, 24 frames per second, I wouldn't give it very much more than the 60. So let's say you could probably get 35, and at 60 frames per second, I would say you're getting 30. So hopefully these numbers helped. These are real world experience numbers with repetitive use of my camera. I imagine that Fuji or some technical overview channel probably has a more thorough breakdown of why these frame rates function for this duration of time, and some numbers about temperature and science and blah. But these are numbers that I'm gonna work with and that I rely on as a full-time freelancer. So that's a wrap. Thank you for watching this video. If you got anything out of it, please give it a thumbs up. If you are liking the type of content I'm putting out, please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to comment, because who knows, you might actually get an answer in the form of a full-blown video.
Oh, really?
I hope you have an awesome and spooky but totally safe Halloween. Now go make something awesome. Bye.